We have set records in both of the previous 2 years, this year and last year both, with the number of building permits just in the county. And I think the cities will express the same, their data. We're over 500 building permits just the last 2 years alone, which exceeds the previous years quite a bit.
Like in Nixa alone, we issued a little over 300 building permits just in the incorporated city limits of Nixa, not including some of the rural areas, which is what he's talking about. And one of the things that we noticed was that our planning and zoning department did a little research, and we're down to about 350 available lots in Nixa, but we're excited because we have almost 1,000 coming out of the ground by the springtime, that we have developers already committed to coming, because we have so many people that are looking to move into the Nixa area, and it's driving up our average sales price and our average median income, which is all really, really good numbers for our economic growth.
I mean, the data supports that. I mean, we wanted to be more proactive in preparing our future generations and having an asset, a fixed asset, to be better prepared to address that growth. I think it's important to know that Highway 14 is our main corridor connecting our two largest cities. And the property has all the infrastructure in place as far as it's inside the city limits. It has all the utilities. And MoDOT is getting ready to expand that portion of the highway, and it just made sense.
Not necessarily the purchase, but the purchase is just planning to be proactive, which is really what that's a sign of. And Show Me Christian County is the collaborative partnership that was put together to proactively work on our growth and increasing business opportunity. So just all across the county, and this is just one example of ways that our leaders are starting to move forward, plan for the future and how we come together. Our organization is really brought together to help everyone from startup businesses to those existing in our business community. You know, retention and expansion is so important to all of us. And then attracting new business across the county. And really this position along the Highway 14 corridor ties together our two anchor communities of Nixa and Ozark. And not only that, but we represent and are sure that we bring everyone to the table. So all of our rural communities as well through this collaborative effort. But that's why I think Ralph wanted to just really highlight the partnership as a whole, because this is, while it is exciting, it's just really one example of ways that we are connected and trying to work together to plan for what's getting ready to happen in the county.
So really, it's exactly like what Andrew and Ralph were talking about. On purpose and very intentionally, we're really, really excited about the fact that not just within our local municipalities, but really on that county level, really for the first time this effectively, I think all of our various entities are being proactive to come to the table and say, hey, how are we going to be sustainable, you know, not just for the next year or two, but the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. So it's really, really exciting when you look at what the potential that developments and purchases like this have for the future of our business growth. So we've enjoyed for a very long time, both Nixa and Ozark and Christian County as a whole have really enjoyed a large jump in residential growth. And so what we, as these various entities are coming to the table to try to do is say, we have a lot of momentum on that residential side. We want to make sure that we're positioning ourselves for that residential momentum to translate into commercial momentum as well. So it's really just for the purposes of all of us being able to take what's already happening and putting us in a good position to take advantage of that in the future. Sure.
And I don't know, you know, Ralph, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that there are specific plans for exactly what that's going to look like. And hopefully a county-wide master plan is something that we have really talked about. We get together monthly, not only as a board with the stakeholders that we have around the table, but with the planning and development departments between specifically our two anchor communities and the county. And we're talking about, you know, what are things that we can do to zero in on those top 5 goals, top 5 priorities, that no matter what size our community is, you know, whether it's Billings or Sparta or Highlandville or Clever, or whether we are rapidly growing like Ozark or Nixa, you know, what does that mean? And what are those 5 things and challenges that we can all get on the same page about? And then hopefully that will help spur exactly, you know, what develops on this parcel or any others that we look at as a whole.
Yeah, I think so. And the thing about this is too is that you look at other communities who have done something similar. Springfield did something with an industrial park with their utility departments, and they're able to control it, right? So with that prime property sitting there, we could have somebody move in and put something in that's not going to spur economic development. We all love churches, big fan of them, but they do not drive economic development for our community. They provide great places for our citizens to go, but they're not generating sales tax, they're not generating additional high-paying jobs. And now, as a government entity owns that property, we can kind of control what we allow into that prime spot, and therefore drive more future economic development for Christian County.
Our organization is just nearly 2 years old, and this is big news for us. And for the first time, we are all, as I mentioned, intentionally getting together. And those are things that we hope to identify and hope to gain moving forward, so that we really have those priorities. With Highway 14, as they mentioned, outside of Highway 65 and 160, that's the largest trafficked corridor in our county, and specifically that stretch of road between these two communities. So it just really goes to show that we're working together and we're trying everything that we can to collaborate our efforts and make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
On both sides of the county right now, everybody is doing massive amounts of strategic planning. I know that Ozark's been working on things. The city of Nixa is about to launch their new strategic plan process. Our school systems are doing it. I met with the Clever Betterment Association the other day. They're masterminding and planning how they're going to grow Clever in those areas. So the entire county has taken the lead of this joint effort that we've been seeing to say, okay, what can we do for our part to collaborate and make the overall objective, which is the big part, and saying, hey, how can we make Christian County even better? Yeah.
And what happens when you have the growth that we've experienced in Nixa and Ozark, then it starts moving out to the county as a whole. Sparta Chamber, for example, has probably tripled in size of their chamber meetings. So you're starting to see that growth move further out in the county, like Chris was talking about Clever's chamber. Well, it's not chamber, but it's a better.
Well, Ralph, it's just like this. As Ozark and Nixa continue to grow, and just like we were to Springfield for so many years, we were the affordable housing option for Springfield for people to move to Nixa and Ozark to say, okay, I'm going to do a first-time home buyer in Nixa or Ozark, and now we've kind of outgrown that, where our average sales prices are not first-time home buyer prices. So that's helping Sparta, Highlandville, Clever, those communities to continue to thrive, because now our workforce that we need for our retail and our commercial establishments, they need to have affordable housing, and sometimes that is in other areas outside of our communities. And so, yes, we're continuing to grow in Nixa as we attract people who want to move to Nixa and Ozark, but at the same time, those towns are flourishing because the workforce needs to have affordable housing so they can have their first time home, and they can afford a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, and you just can't buy those brand new in Nixa and Ozark anymore. Well, I think that one thing that I'm really excited most about all of this is that I don't think any of us are putting lids on the possibilities that we can create for our county, that we're constantly thinking bigger. We're thinking about things now that we've never had conversations about, and looking at ideas and collaborative ideas, and like young professional groups collaborating together across the county, and how we can get Clever involved and Sparta involved and other things that we're doing, and that's something that we're just not. Earlier last year, sometime in the earlier part of last year, Andrea did something where with Show Me Christian County, she brought in together the very first all countywide joint leadership meeting, and we had never done that before, and that was eye-opening, and we need to have another one of those soon.
Yeah, the census helps determine how over $675 billion of federal funds are distributed annually. So that has a big impact on our communities, and especially the cities the size of Nixa and Ozark. Because that kind of funding helps fund things such as our streets, electric, water, sewer, even your police services and your fire services are funded through that as well. So it's extremely important for the funding for our communities.
So our initiative here is called Christian County Counts. It is being managed or oversaw by the University Extension of Missouri here in Christian County, along with our regional partners, the Southwest Missouri Council of Governments, to name one. So they are all organizing Christian County Counts, and we have committees that are set up that consist of people like ourselves or members from the city staffs that are sitting on those committees, and to making sure that when the count starts and we have to communicate, we know exactly the way we need to do that to be the most effective.
And growth ties into that, because that's why it's so important that we get a good handle on how fast our communities are growing, and that's the kind of information we're going to get from the census data. Because not only does that help us plan for today, but it also helps us plan for tomorrow and for the future, for many years from now. So that's why it's extremely vital that we get the message out of just how important it is that you get counted in the census.
Yeah, I think the
Absolutely.
point was made earlier that, 20, 30 years ago, um, you know, uh, Springfield was the area that was growing. I just read an article today that, one of the challenges that Springfield has with regards to growth is that they're running out of available land. They're running out of large tracts of property that lie within their service area to be able to develop. And so what's happened is that's kicked that out to the outlying towns. That Ozark and Nixa and Northern Christian County aren't as outlying as we used to be. We're very close, and that's why everybody commutes back and forth to work. But I think our growth is again, we're that next tier, and we're seeing all that growth take place. But the point that was made is that a lot of times now we start to develop as the next business center or the next place of work. And now people are actually not just going to Springfield, but coming to Ozark and Nixa to work because we're bringing the office buildings and the Class A office space that new businesses want to move here to the Midwest to run. And so you start to see your housing and your affordable housing and whatever that is kind of move to the other smaller communities outside of us, and that benefits them too. So I think the entire Christian County is seeing the momentum that we are in Ozark and Nixa of the growth, and it's really exciting that for the first time I know in history that the two major cities, Ozark and Nixa, are working side by side with the leaders in Christian County, and we're inviting all the other smaller communities to be a part of that. And because we now have the Show Me Christian County or the Christian County Business Development Corporation, that has sort of brought us all together for a common goal, and that's just to make our communities the best place that you can be.
You know, the cities of Nixa and Ozark and all the other smaller communities across Christian County have grown at such a rapid rate that we actually qualify for what's called a complete count, which means that they will go out and try to account for every single person within our communities. So if they can't get the information they need digitally, they'll actually go out door to door to try to get every single person accounted for.